welcome. I am going to do a little tutorial for you, and now, since we're working online, I am now working from home in my office. So this is how we get to do things moving forward. Um, I want to show you a little bit about how to create geometric shapes in your designs. So I'm starting with a picture like this. And what I want to do is I want to select him and then add a couple layers and add a couple geometric shapes just so you kind of get the idea and understanding of how to do it. And so I'll show you hopefully a couple of tricks in here that should help you. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is selecting him. And then after that, um, I'm going to copy him, paste him, or cut him and paste him. In fact, I don't know why I'm doing all of this work. What I should be doing is going a lot faster since it's a white background. I'm just going to click on the white area, change the tolerance to about 10, so it's a lot less to select. Press the shift key, and then I should be selecting just about everything. And so I've got a couple little pieces here to select. And then in here, and that should be about everything. So now I've got that selected, right? And you guys know the drill with this. And then I'm going to go select inverse, and I'm going to go edit copy, edit paste. And so then here he is showing up there. So now I've done a pretty good job. What I want to do now is add in just some geometric shapes. So this is probably my favorite one to use when I'm creating geometric shapes. It's this one and then the rectangle marquee tool. And so for now, I'm just going to I'm going to make a selection kind of like this now. This part gets a little tricky because I really want to make sure that it's all parallel. And so trying to figure out how to make this parallel is a little tricky. If you guys have any other ideas that are better than mine, let me know. So I'm going to start with something like this. Now, make sure you make a new layer for this. And then I am going to, let's see here. Hold on. I got to move this over just a little bit. I need to use the paint bucket. There we go. Sorry, as I'm recording this, some of these little buttons pops up. Okay, so here's my paint bucket. And I'm going to find a color to use. Let's go eyedropper. Grab this color here, kind of a darker red. A little bit better. Sure. And then paint bucket, paint it. It's probably not really the right color, so we'll just go a little bit darker. I think it's something like this. And now paint it. Now I've got something like that. Okay. Now, if I want to, so I've got that piece, I can move this behind it. And so I've got something like that going on. Now, I can always clean that up later. That's really not of great importance right now. But, so I have that piece. I'm on this layer. What I can do is I can add some different effects to this. So I'm going to go into my FX window, and I always like to add kind of an outer glow to it. And you can go with black, you can go any color that you want to. And so I'll start with something like this. Okay, so it's going to space it out just a little bit. What I sometimes do too is I'll add a stroke to the outside. And so let's see here. I've got it at inside. I'm going to make it this gold color. And then change the thickness of it. And so it gets something like this. All right, now you see how this is kind of going that way, which is fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this shape and press the Option key. And then I just make it a lot bigger. And so now I've got something like this going on. So that's one little trick that I can do. So now my design is getting a little bit nicer. What I can also do is I can even copy this, drag it down here, and see what happens. So now this is on a different layer. So I'm going to move this down a little bit more. Try this again. And then what I can even do here is move this guy, move it down a little bit more. There we go. And so now I've just got kind of a different little design going on here. I'm going to move this picture of me maybe over here because I don't think I need that as much. So now this kind of design is already looking more interesting. I've got a picture of the New Orleans Pelicans, so I'm going to grab that. So I'm going to go File, Place, add that image in. And again, the only reason I'm doing this is so I can have something that will make the design, oops, a little bit better to look at. So I don't know, maybe I put it up here. Maybe I just make it bigger this way. All right, so it's in the design. So I've got something like that. Now I've got this image. I'm gonna pull this down here, and we've done this stuff before, but I'm gonna show you again. So I'm gonna go create clipping mask, and so it's inside there. I can move this window over a little bit. Try that again, and then just change the opacity of it. So maybe I've got something like this. So there's different options to go about that. Now with this shape as well, what I might want to do is I have this kind of border right here. What I could do also is maybe I add another shape to it just to clean it up a little bit. And again, I want to try to make this as parallel as possible. I don't know if that's even a word, but we're going to go with it. So got this. So I've made this extra shape here. And then I just want to click on this part. And if I want it in the same layer, I can. Otherwise, what I might have to do is put it in a different layer and then paint it. And so now I've got that included. Now, obviously it's in front of him, so we don't want that. So I'll move this down to here. So that's in the background. I can copy that layer. I can add these effects here. So I'm pressing the Option key and dragging it in there. Now the stroke kind of looks weird, so I might not want that, but I might want something like this. So that looks kind of cool. And then what I could also do is I could either duplicate the layer or press the Option key and drag it up here. And so now I've got this shape. And as I'm putting this on here, you can see how my lines are a little bit crooked, which kind of bothers me. But we'll go with it. So there we go. So now I've got that piece added. So these two are actually, they kind of have a little outer glow on them. So I'm going to leave it like this. So now I've got a design that's looking a little bit better. Now there's other options that you can do. I've done something like this where there's kind of a couple extra shapes added. But this design, I think, from my perspective, looks a lot more interesting than what it did before. I mean, you get rid of everything else, and if I got rid of this and, sorry, these extra layers, it's just not going to look that exciting, right? So by adding these geometric shapes and these different designs, I think the overall design looks a lot better. Now there's other ways you can go about this. I mean, you might even go with a shape that looks like this, just a simple triangle, right? Make a new layer. So I've got that, and then I can paint that color in too. And so I've got a shape that's going like this. If I want, I could even maybe make it bigger. So I've got maybe something that's going like this. So it's even larger, so it overlaps him. Now it won't at the beginning, but it'll get better. So I paint that, and again, I can add a stroke to it, some different effects to jazz it up a little bit more. And since it's cutting off his head, we might want to put it behind him. So I've got something like that. Now, obviously, the quick trick is if I don't like what's going on right there with this little white area here, you can always go in with the eraser, shrink it down, add a little feather to it, and then let's see how this goes. And I think the overall design will look a lot better. And so it's up to you how detailed and crazy that you want to get with it. So that looks a lot better than it did before. So I've got, yeah, that looks a lot better. And if you want to see the difference, we can go into window history and you can see what it looked like before versus after. Another cool trick that you can do, I'm sure you already know this, but you can always use these little snapshots so you can see what you've got at certain points. And so I can go to this and continue working. I can go into, here's where I was before that. Let's see here. So I've got that shape. I can create this option too, so I can go back to these during the day while I'm working, so I can see where I'm at and what I've done. So hopefully that kind of helps you. So there's a lot going on with this. You can see how I can delete and move things around. The rectangle tool also works really well. I'm going to hide this one. I'm going to hide this one. I'm actually going to hide all of these just to show you another trick that we've done before. Some of you have. But um, but I would just want to show you something else really quickly here. And so you can use this rectangle tool and you can maybe make a shape that's like this. Again, same process. Oops. Of course, you got to make sure it's on a new layer. So I've got something here, right? And if I want to, I can add little shapes in here. I can drag this down. I can either make it on a new layer, which also works really well, because if I make it on a new layer, then I can copy it easily and move it around. So I've got that. And I can grab this piece, press the Option key, drag it down here, and so I have this shape. Now I'm going to move this up just a little to clean it. Move this layer down so it looks a little more organized. And then once I have those done, now I'm going to go in and I'm going to go merge layers. So now that's all on one layer. And I can move this one down to here so it's behind it. And you can have some writing on there. You can see how that would look. You can add some effects on here. Now, be careful if you do color overlay, because then you can't put a clipping mask on it. So I'm just going to go with an outer glow. And we're going to go with maybe a black. You can even go with a gold if I wanted to. Maybe select this color here. And you can have something like this. You've got the color scheme. Maybe you have this at blue, whatever their colors are. So I've got something like that going on. So these are some little tricks that you can use that will hopefully help you out moving forward. So when we start working with geometric shapes and when we actually are doing these things, you'll have a couple ideas. Now, this isn't limited to just these. There's a ton of other cool options that you can do, and I'm sure most of you are going to come up with some really cool ideas. So do some research, go online, look at what everyone else has posted so far so you can kind of see some of the designs that have been created, and you're going to come up with some pretty cool ideas. I mean, you might even have something that's looking like this. You might even use some ideas. I don't know why that's selected that way, but so it goes. You might even use the pen tool, right? You can use the pen tool to create a selection. And if you want something waving this way for your geometric shape, you can do that. So I copy, make this whole shape, right click on it, try it again. Try it again here. Hold on. There we go. And then make selection. Feather 0. And now I can make this into its own selection and its own layer. And so now I've got something like this going on, which could be pretty effective too. So there's a lot of different ways to go about these things. Like I said, you're going to come up with some really cool ideas on your own for how to create these. And when we say geometric shapes, it doesn't have to be literally actual geometric shapes. It can be, and it's kind of an easier way to go about it, but some of these you can have some pretty cool effects with some of the abstract shapes like this one here. So if you have any questions, let me know, reach out to me, and hopefully I can be of assistance and help you through any questions that you have. Thanks.